Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to Bet. I'm Erin, Dolan, joined by the fabulous Eric Moody. We are ready to give you guys some winners on this September 25th Sunday Bet edition. We are amped up. I'm 2 cups of coffee deep. Eric, how caffeinated are you to get through the show?
You know what? I'm very caffeinated. I've had 2 cups of coffee, and I've also had a little bit of tea, so I'm fired up, ready to go for week 3.
Tea is not my thing at all. I am just, give me all the hot coffee you possibly can, especially now that the weather is dropping. But let's first get to our market movers for NFL Week 3. What's going on in terms of some of these lines? So we'll start with Philly versus the Commanders. Philly moved up from -4 to -6.5. Same thing, we'll go down with Green Bay to Tampa Bay. That line opened Tampa Bay -3, but we know that offensive line's pretty banged up. That line dropped as well. Cincinnati, New York moved up in the Bengals' favor despite them being 0-2. Then Jacksonville at the Los Angeles Chargers. LAC -7, now down to -3.5. And we're keeping an eye on this game because Justin Herbert, I read a report this morning, expected to decide on a pain-killing shot during Sunday pre-game warmups. Eric, this is a tough one when you're supposed to come on a show, give picks, but when a quarterback like Justin Herbert's not going to be there potentially, what are your thoughts on that line moving down? It makes sense, but it's also one I'm going to be very cautious of.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It makes sense for the line to drop, but just looking at Chase Daniel's stats in games where he's been the starter, it just does not bode well for this Chargers offense. Goes to Austin Eckler in the running game, but it's just one that I would avoid. I'd rather target some of the props in this one.
Absolutely, and I'm sure we're going to get all into that game. But again, that total at 48, it opened up already down to 42.5. It's really, again, tough to handicap when you got a quarterback that you're not sure what's going to happen until warm-ups. Pretty insane there. All right, let's also get to another game, Bengals Jets. We're going to bring in NFL insider Diana Russini, who joins us live from the Jets Stadium. Diana, how are you doing this morning?
Hi, Erin. How you guys all doing today? It is absolutely gorgeous here at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, where it's maybe 70 degrees, cloudy. It's perfect football weather.
Diana gives it us all. Give us the weather, and now we got to get your insight into this game. So the Bengals, they're 0-2, so it feels like this is a must-win game, and it's kind of crazy saying must-win in NFL Week 3, but what is the mentality around this team being a must-win game?
Yeah, Aaron, remember Aaron Rodgers a few years ago said, everybody, R-E-L-A-X, relax. Well, Joe Burrow did his best Aaron Rodgers imitation this past week, basically saying, just chill out. And, talking to a lot of these guys this last week as well, nothing seems different about them. The panic may be coming from the fan base, but that's not the sense I get from this team at all. Today's focus, though, is for them to really come out of the gate starting out fast. When you take a look back at the Bengals' success last season, 5 of the last 6 wins that they had, they scored on their opening drive. They're well aware of this on offense, and they're really focused on trying to get a rhythm and really get on the board first.
No, very good stuff. So on the Jets side, their defense has only gotten 3 sacks this year. So here comes Cincinnati, who hands out sacks like Oprah gives away cars. What have the Jets said about keeping pressure on Joe Burrow today, considering how vulnerable his offensive line is right now?
Vulnerable is a perfect word that you use because I spoke to some players this past week, and that's essentially how they view this team right now. They know that Joe Burrow hasn't been getting the ball out of his hands as fast as he would like. And by the way, that is something the Bengals are focused on today, on trying to get that ball out quick. But in terms of the offensive line that this Bengals team has been dealing with, the Jets defense thinks they can take full advantage in terms of a matchup. They think they've got the edge against them, especially because 4 out of 5 of these guys out here on the Bengals side of it protecting Joe Burrow missed a lot of time during the offseason. They're new. And when I talked to them about it, actually, like, why are there so many issues here with protecting this quarterback? Who is this to blame? And everyone kind of points to different things, but the Jets think it's them just trying to find a rhythm. They think this offensive line just hasn't figured out how to work together just yet, and they're hoping they won't figure that out today at MetLife.
You make a great point about that offensive line. We definitely thought this offseason it was going to be great, and then obviously we're not expecting an 0-2 start for the Bengals. But Diana, thank you so much. Looking forward to your coverage today.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Eric, let's get into this game. Cincy right now a -6 favorite with a total at 45. Are you playing a side, total, player prop in this one? Which way are you going?
Yeah, a little bit of combination of both. And Diana brought a really good point. Like offensive line continuity, it's going to take some time for this unit to gel. But they are very talented, and I do believe they'll take a huge step forward against the Jets here in Week 3. And so you look at the Jets; they're 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games at home. And I do like the Bengals to cover in this game from a prop or from a betting lens, I would say. I do like Joe Mixon as a player to score 2 or more touchdowns in this game. He accomplished this feat against the Jets last year with a rushing and receiving touchdown. He's averaging around 28 touches a game, so I think he has an opportunity to score a ton in this matchup.
And we are on the same side here. I would lay with the Bengals. They're eventually going to figure it out. They lost each of the opening games this season, the 2 games. On the last play, you're now facing a Jets squad that's allowing 27 points per game to opponents. And on top of that, I feel like the Jets are a little overhyped after what happened last week. And I get it. They erased that 13-point deficit in the final 2 minutes of the game. That was absolutely impressive, but that was a one-off performance. Eventually, the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe in Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, they're going to come out and be like, all right, let's get it together. We've had a few weeks. We need to prove people wrong. And obviously, when we looked at the first 2 games from the season, you go against the Steelers defense as well as the Dallas Cowboys defense. You're looking at T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons coming at you. I do think the Cincinnati Bengals will get on track in this one, so I would lay the 6 points. All right, another game we are going to, Raiders versus Tennessee. 2 teams that are actually 0-2, which is surprising since they were in the playoffs last season. But LV right now, laying 2 with a total at 45.5. Which way are you playing this one, Eric?
You know what, the Raiders are really surprising me so far for this year, but they'll get it together sooner rather than later. I'm actually looking at a player prop in this game, and that is with wide receiver on the Raiders, Mac Hollins, going over 35.5 receiving yards in this game. We got Hunter Renfrow, who's out, dealing with a concussion on a vicious hit. And I think one thing with Mac Hollins, he'll fill the void very nicely. Now, he had 8 targets with 66 receiving yards last week. I believe he can replicate that kind of production here today.
All right, I'm going to go with a player prop in this one. I'm going to go to Derrick Henry to have over 21.5 attempts. The last time we saw this Tennessee Titans squad play Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills, they got absolutely destroyed, and I was somebody who said take Tennessee with the points. So I was definitely somebody you should have made fun of on that Monday night. But regardless, I do think he'll get over this mark despite having just 13 attempts against the Buffalo Bills. Reason being is it's kind of their only way to really find the end zone, and I do think that they really need to work him in terms of that. I felt like against the Buffalo Bills, they stopped doing that. They leaned on their receivers, who, by the way, are rookies. Treylon Burks, yes, he was fine in that game, but at the same time, I mean, they got a whole rookie, basically, receiving core. You need to lean on Derrick Henry, and I do think that the Raiders will allow him to go off in this game. So I'd rather take the attempts, isolate that 21.5, taking the over. All right, another matchup. We got Kansas City versus Indy. I don't know what in God's name's going on with Indy, and honestly, I don't really, frankly, care, but they've been very disappointing. KC right now, a 5-point favorite with a total at 51. What is the play?
The play for me, I'm going to start off with the team total. I like the Chiefs going over 27.5 points here. Now, I'll be candid. Patrick Mahomes has had a ton of success against defensive coordinator Gus Bradley. Now, Bradley is now the defensive coordinator for the Colts, so I believe this trend will continue. Now, he was with the Las Vegas. And I'll put it to you like this. Bradley's in love, we'll say, with single high safety and cover 3 looks. I would say in love with those just like Edward Cullen was in love with Bella Swan in the Twilight film franchise. Now, one thing about Mahomes is that he's averaged 332 passing yards and 3.5 touchdown passes per game against the Raiders last year. We could see a similar performance here in Week 3. Chiefs offensive line, I'm like, they're going to provide Mahomes a tremendous amount of protection. If I'm looking at that team from a film perspective, at least with their line, they have a significant advantage in this matchup. So I also like Mahomes from a player prop lens over passing yards and over 2.5 touchdowns as well.
And Eric, I really like how you broke that down because you relied on the team, the Kansas City Chiefs, which we've seen what they can do in the past, and even this season, they look the same. So it makes sense to isolate that team total, also go with a player prop in Mahomes. I'm also looking at Patrick Mahomes because I don't trust the Colts. Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes over his passing yards for today. The Colts right now have allowed 228.5 passing yards per game, but think about who they played against. The Texans offensive line, the Jags offensive line. This is now the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a potent offense with 293 average passing yards per game. Patrick Mahomes also played well against Gus Bradley, who is the former defensive coordinator of the Raiders. Patrick Mahomes is going to go off in this one, go over his passing yards. All right, let's switch it over to the Bills-Dolphins game, but first we got to get to NFL insider Jeff Darlington, bring him in from the sidelines. Jeff, How you doing on this Sunday? NFL Week 3, getting in the groove?
Oh, great. It's hot. We're good, though. We're good. It's hot. I think the Bills will be feeling that one in a couple minutes themselves.
I'm jealous because it's freezing here in Bristol, Connecticut, so I wish I had some heat. But let's talk about those injuries. The Bills have a lengthy list of injuries that are going on. There's also some other notable ones that we want to ask you about, but we'll start off with Gabe Davis. So let's hear some of the injuries for the Bills.
So Gabe Davis has said this week that he is 100% playing in this game. That being said, he was limited on the injury report at times this week. We expect him to play. I'm told that he will play. Dawson Knox is another one we should be watching, though, in 20 minutes on the offensive side of the ball. We'll get to the defense, but Dawson Knox and Gabe Davis, two guys that we're wondering about. Inactives out in 20 minutes. I expect both to play, but still keep an eye on that one. That could be an important part of this offense going for this game.
So, Jeff, now the Dolphins, they have the fastest receiving core in the NFL. Just ask the Ravens to fact check that. And Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they combined for 360 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns last Sunday, so they were superb. Look at the Bills. They've just allowed 17 points all season, so why does Miami think they'll be able to put up points on?
Well, we get right back to that injury report, right? This is where things get really interesting for the Bills. They are absolutely decimated on defense. They're going to be starting 2 rookie corners, 2 young safeties in place of Micah Hyde is out of this game. Poyer is out of this game. As a result, heart and soul of this defense. This is where this game could become a true shootout. When you look at that over, you've obviously got a Bills offense that's playing really well, but a decimated defense against an offense that has basically the cheat code with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So I really think that given that notion, we are setting ourselves up in this game for a very, very high-scoring one.
High-scoring one, it might be. Excited to see your coverage for the rest of the day. Jeff, have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Eric, let's get into this game. The line has moved down to Buffalo -4.5, and you got the total at 53.5, like Jeff said. Might be a shootout. This total inching up just slightly. Which way are you playing this one?
You know what? I am going with the Dolphins, and I'm taking the points here. I love this team. I love watching this team. I love what Mike McDaniel. And I'm sure, privately in his office, he's probably doing like a happy dance. I would say just like Tom Cruise did in the 1983 gym, Risky Business. I'm like, this team, I just love to watch them. And I would say, though, just to kind of tie that to that, pop culture reference, is that it would be a risky proposition thinking on the surface to bet against, I would say, this Bills team, considering how dominant they've looked offensively through these first 2 games. But the defense, I do have some concerns with all these injuries on defense, and particularly in the secondary, which I think it benefits the Dolphins. The Dolphins, I would say, may not win this game, but I do think they'll play well enough, and I'm taking the points here. The Dolphins are 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 home games. So if you're looking at a player prop, I do like Tua a lot in this game. His passing yards line is at 262.5 passing yards. I do believe that he'll get over that number, especially with throwing balls to Tyreek Hill and also to Jalen Waddle.
You make a great point about wanting to watch this Dolphins squad, and I kind of feel like that's how everybody feels because they're just really exciting to watch. The head coach has done a great job so far. And then for the Bills, this is what we expected. We expected them to look great at the beginning of the season, and honestly, they're still Super Bowl favorites, so obviously we expected them to look good, but this could be a great matchup today. I'm actually going to isolate this to a quarter bet, which is a little surprising. It's something I haven't done yet this season, or at least I've broadcasted on the airways, but I'm going to look at the Buffalo Bills in that third quarter and take them on the money line. They are the highest scoring third quarter team, averaging 15.5 points per game in that third quarter. Meanwhile, the Dolphins are just averaging 5. The reason I like this is because we know that the Buffalo Bills can make those adjustments at the halftime and come out slinging. On top of that, Buffalo's defense ranks second against the pass, allowing 149 passing yards, and they're also second against the run, allowing 67.5 rushing yards. But obviously, we need to take into account all these injuries and things like that, since they're holding opponents to 8.5 points per game, which is absolutely impressive. But I just think we're gonna mix it up here. Go with the third quarter bet, take them on the money line. It's not a ton of juice that you're laying here, but that's the way I would play this one because this is a really tough game in general to handicap with all these injuries. Let's switch it to a division matchup. The NFC East, my Philadelphia Eagles are taking on Carson Wentz and the Commanders. It's kind of a couple years ago, I would not be thinking that I would be saying Carson Wentz, and then let alone the Washington Commanders would be called the Commanders. I mean, how many name changes can we go through? But nonetheless, we got Philadelphia right now, 6.5-point favorite. You got that total of 47.5. I hope my boy Jalen Hurts balls out today. How you playing this one?
Well, you know what, Erin? I'm going to say something that will bring a smile to your face. I would say after 2 games, this Eagles team, in my opinion, is the team to beat in the NFC East. So
yes.
I love them in this matchup. I'm taking them to cover, and I don't care about betting history in this one. Seasons, the Eagles are 0-3-1 against the spread against Washington, but as the young people say, this is a team that is simply just built different. You know, I'm a big offensive line, defensive line guy because I played the position, and I think the Eagles have a major advantage at offensive line in this game. From a run blocking perspective and a pass blocking perspective, I love watching this unit, I would say, go to work on film. Now the Commanders, they're giving up 7.5 rushing yards per attempt this season. And so I think the Eagles are going to lean heavily on the running game, with Miles Sanders, but also with Jalen Hurts. And it's a player prop with Hurts that I like for him to go over 53.5 rushing yards. So you love to see it.
You do, and that Jalen Hurts rushing yards prop has come up slightly because everybody's been loving what they're seeing from Jalen Hurts. But you talk about that offensive line, and first, let me also say, I have to address, thank you for saying they obviously have looked good the first couple weeks. I know you're a Cowboys fan, so that's tough for you to say. I would never say it about the Cowboys if they were doing well, but some of us are nicer than others. But nonetheless, I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles in that first half, -3.5. You talk about that offensive line, absolutely great. They can run the ball. You got Jalen Hurts who can pass the ball. Let's say the Commanders, for some reason, were able to stop the run, stop the pass. Jalen Hurts himself, he can scramble around. He can score himself. He's had 3 rushing touchdowns already this season through 2 games. They have so many different weapons and so many different options they can turn to. Also for the Commanders, when you look at that defensive line, they're not great at stopping the run. They're actually ranked 27th. That's going to hurt them against the Philadelphia Eagles team that ranks 2nd in the league right now in rushing yards per game behind the Cleveland Browns. And then on top of that, they rank 1st in the league in yards per game. The Philadelphia Eagles have looked great through the first 2 weeks. And on top of that, in the first half, they've actually been up 10 against the Lions in week 1 and then against the Vikings in week 2. I think they'll jump out to a quick start against this Commanders squad today. So we can kind of thread the needle with all the bets we like for the Eagles versus the Commanders game. But yeah, we're going to go with that first half spread again, -3.5. Another game we have on the board, one I'm not too excited about, to be honest, is Rams versus Cardinals. The Rams currently a 3.5-point favorite with that total at 48.5. How you playing this one?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not a lot to get. I am betting the over on this one. I see 2, fairly, stout offenses. Great quarterback play on both sides, a ton of offensive playmakers. But defensively, I see some areas of opportunity. I think these defenses should be like on a performance improvement plan because they've got to step up and make some changes here. But one thing that's interesting, though, when you're looking at the over is that of the 4 combined games that these teams have played, 3 of those games, these games so far this season, I would say, is that 3 of them have gone over the point total. And if you're looking at a player prop, I do like Tyler Higbee a lot in this game. I know he's someone I've recommended quite a bit as a fantasy football tight end streamer that's paid dividends. You look at Higbee, he's caught 12 of 20 targets through 2 games, so I do like him getting over that 4.5 receptions mark. And Erin, I don't know what it is. People thought that Allen Robinson was going to be Matthew Stafford's second favorite receiver going into this year, but it looks like it's Higbee. So I'll tell you what, maybe Higbee ended up having breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks on consecutive days with Matthew Stafford to get that rapport going, but he looks like he's the guy.
Yeah, I feel like the Rams sometimes, because they have so many weapons, you're never sure which one they're going to turn to. They remind me of the Boston Celtics in the NBA. Like, it's so hard to bet player props for a reason with a team like that. But I am going to go with the player prop in this one, and I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford, though. We're going to go over for his passing yards. The Arizona Cardinals, their defense is the 2nd worst in the league against the pass. So right now, they're allowing an average of 302 passing yards per game. Now, this number is bumped up because that opening week, Patrick Mahomes threw 360 yards against this team. I'm not saying Matthew Stafford's going to be able to put up those types of numbers, but he should be able to get over this number. You talk about that total and how high it is, and you even like the over. I think we just see Matthew Stafford slinging the ball a ton. He's probably not going to use the running back position as much. So I really do like Matthew Stafford to go over his passing yards today against this Cardinal squad. All right, let's get to big dog, little dog. For those that don't know, a little dog is anything +3 or less, and a big dog is +3.5 or greater. Eric, you've been really good at this, okay? Like, really good. You called a little dog correctly again, and it was an outright winner. Our producer before the show was telling Eric, maybe next time you just take it to the bank with these dogs because you've been killing it with this one. So we're going to start off, though, with a big dog today. And let's get your take on this because I know you and I are in agreement on this game.
Yes, you and I are aligned with the Detroit Lions, the preseason betting darling, with Dan Campbell and his motley crew. And I'm going to go back to offensive line play on here. I was really impressed with the upgrades they made at the offensive line for this Detroit team. And it's paid dividends. They have a significant advantage in this defensive front in this game. If you look at Detroit, this is a team that's averaged an astounding 186 rushing yards per game. Jared Goff, has played well for this team, doesn't have any turnovers. He's averaged 232 passing yards per game and 3 passing touchdowns per game this season. And so, I take the Lions in the points here. I think they're going to come out, on fire and play hard, and I'm taking the points.
I agree with you, and they've actually looked really good the first 2 weeks in terms of the amount of points they put up. They put up a whopping 71 points in the past 2 games. When you think about that, it's not something we were really expecting heading into the season. I will take the points with the Detroit Lions as well. We saw the Minnesota Vikings, that Monday Night Football game against the Eagles. What did they allow the Eagles to do? They allowed the receivers to go off, which is why I also like Amon-Ra St. Brown to score a touchdown in this one. I want to mention he's had 3 touchdowns so far this season. He's had at least 1 touchdown in his last 6 consecutive games. He also had a touchdown against this team last season. And just based off what we've seen from the Minnesota Vikings, ranked 30th against the pass. Receivers are going to go off in this game. They should be putting up a ton of points, which makes me think they will be able to cover this number. The Vikings, they can probably put up some points. You got a receiver like Justin Jefferson. They should be putting up points. I just think both these teams, considering they can, it will be a tighter game than we expect. It's a division matchup. The Detroit Lions, they're a scrappy team. I don't know if it's because they were filmed on Hard Knocks or something lately, but they have been absolutely scrappy. So I'd rather take them with the points than not. Let's switch it over to your little dog again, +3 or less. Where are you going with this? Where are you going this week?
You know what? I am going to go with the Green Bay Packers here. So, I like them with the points. Fading the Buccaneers. I just look at this Buccaneers team. We got a ton of injuries on the Buccaneers at the wide receiver position. We also have Mike Evans making questionable decisions last week, which led to him being suspended in week 3. You also have offensive line woes. They're dealing with a lot of injuries there. But then the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae is the GOAT, Tom Brady, breaking tablets like a toddler who wasn't able to watch an extra 30 minutes of Coco Melon. And so I think all these things could just haunt the Buccaneers in this game. And now I know what some people are thinking. Well, the Buccaneers defense is a juggernaut. Yeah, they have been great so far this year. But I'll go as far as to say they have not met like a complete offense like the Green Bay Packers will bring to the table. So I'm betting on the Packers and taking the points here.
Love that Coco Melon reference. I actually was out to dinner with my friends this past weekend, and I got to experience what Coco Melon was because I didn't know, but they were playing it for their dogs. I will not be, for one, watching that anytime again soon. But nonetheless, my little dog, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans +3. It moved from +2.5 to +3. So typically that's not something you want to just jump on since the line's moving. But at the same time, you think I trust the Chicago Bears and Justin Field? Absolutely not. He has been struggling through the air. His only option basically is handed off to the running back position. But you got this Houston Texans team who reminds me of the Detroit Lions in the fact that they are scrappy. 2-0 against the spread so far this season. I just don't trust the Chicago Bears team in any shape, way, or form. The Houston Texans, like I said, been scrappy. I'd rather take the points with them as my little dog this week. All right, let's switch it over to No Huddle. We're going to get through these a little quicker than we have on some of the other games. We'll start off Baltimore versus the Patriots. Baltimore, a 2.5-point favorite. That total at 44.5. How you playing it?
Yeah, with this one, I'm taking the under on this game. It's that you got a high-octane Ravens offense going up against a stout Patriots defense. I don't think it'll be a lot of scoring in this game. For those looking at player props, I do like Justin Tucker over 1.5 field goals made.
All right, I'm going to look at the Ravens in the first half, take them on the money line. We saw what happened last week. The Dolphins were able to come back in that fourth quarter, put up 28 points. But in that first half, the Ravens were up by 21 points. The week before that against the Jets, they were up by 4 points. The Ravens are going to jump out to a quick start in this one. They also have some of the highest points put up in the league right now in that first half. They're going to get J.K. Dobbins back in this one. The Patriots, nothing about them really excites me. They don't put up a ton of points either. I'm not trusting Mac Jones. So Ravens first half money line for me. Let's also go to the Saints versus the Panthers. Oh, this is kind of a nasty matchup. We got the Saints, a 2.5-point favorite with a total of 41. How you doing this one, Eric?
Whew, I agree with you. This is just a messy matchup. It's one player prop that I'm looking at in this game, and that is with Christian McCaffrey going over 37.5 receiving yards. Now, in his career against the Saints, he's averaged 7.7 targets and 61.3 receiving yards per game. I'm taking the over here on McCaffrey. Everything else, I'm staying away from.
All right, I'm going to also go with the Christian McCaffrey prop. I'm going to go under, though, 57.5 rushing yards. So we only hit over this in one game so far of this season, but he's dealing with that ankle injury. Makes me a little bit nervous. We can kind of thread the needle here, Eric. And also, New Orleans is one of the best run defenses in the land. So I'm concerned because he hasn't played well against the Saints in the past. We know this injury concern. I do like the prop that you're making on him, but just for me personally, I'd rather take him under rushing yards because, again, I'm just not sure how he's going to look in this game. All right, Jacksonville versus the Chargers. Chargers are a 3.5-point favorite, total of 42.5. Prop, side, total, give it to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty in this game with Justin Herbert waiting until like the 11:59 to make the decision. I digress, though. I do like Evan Ingram over 36 yards. He's caught 11 to 12 targets so far this year. He's in a great spot in this matchup. I also like Zay Jones, to score a touchdown. I feel like he's due, for some touchdown action. I'm like, he has 13 targets through 2 weeks, and so those are the bets that I would make on this game.
This is a friendly reminder that you don't have to bet on every single game on the NFL slate. This is one, I'm not even messing around with this. If you're betting into this one, good luck to you, and I applaud you. It's just not something that I'm interested in when a guy like Justin Herbert, we're not going to know till pregame warmups if he wants to get that shot into his ribs. So stay away game for me. But let's switch it over to Take It to the Bank. Let's first look at last week's results. Bring them up on the screen here. All right, let's see. I really wasn't looking forward to seeing this graphic. We both took an L on this one, but obviously we hit some other bets throughout the show. So, Eric, this week, give me a winner in Take It to the Bank.
Yeah, you're saying to see that graphic. The second Javonte Williams didn't hit, I wasn't excited to see this graphic, for today. But I am going with, for my Take It to the Bank, Dameon Pierce over 60.5 rushing yards. He looked great last week. At 100% of the Texans' rushing attempts, finished with 69 rushing yards. And one thing with Pierce is that he's facing a Bears defense that ranks dead last in rushing yards allowed to opponents. So I think this is the matchup where he can really go boom.
All righty, I'm going to go with Leonard Fournette over 69.5 rushing yards. Tom Brady and the Bucs are going to have to lean on Leonard Fournette. And yes, I know he's been questionable, but he will play in this game. I expect him to have a huge workload. On top of that, the Packers defense, not great at stopping the run. They're actually ranked 27th. That's going to end up hurting them. They're allowing 153 rushing yards so far this season per game. Tom Brady, look at that offensive line. Who else does he have to lean on? You got Mike Evans, who's suspended, Chris Godwin, who is out. You got Julio Jones, who's also questionable. It just makes the most sense to lean on a guy like Leonard Fournette, in which he can count on. And also, Eric, I know you're really big into the fantasy world. I know he had tweeted out last week that he needs to get a touchdown for all the fantasy managers out there, so maybe he'll even grab one of those. But I'm going to take him over 69.5 rushing yards as my Take It to the Bank. All right, well, we covered all the bases. I'm pretty sure we just hit on every game besides Monday Night Football in this show, but we got to switch it over to baseball. So this is before I let you go. Is there anything that stands out to you in terms of Major League Baseball today?
Yeah, looking at the MLB slate today, I do like the Mets minus 1.5 to cover. And so I look at the Mets and the A's. They've split this series so far, and the A's offense was good on Saturday. I just don't see that being the case today. You've got Max Scherzer that's coming off a game where he gave up 0 runs. And I just don't see the A's on the other end scoring against him here. And I don't think that the Mets will need to score like 7 runs in this game to win. So, I'm backing the Mets in this game to cover.
Okay. I'm going to go with a huge storyline. We got to talk about Aaron Judge. We know the Yankees are playing the Boston Red Sox. The Yankees have been rolling. They've won the last 3 games. This is the last game of the series. But I will say, Aaron Judge, I said earlier in the first game of the series, do not bet him to have a home run against Michael Wacha. He was terrible, 0-14 against him. But this time around, I think he might have a shot at getting a home run in this Game 4 of the series. It's currently plus 180 for him to hit a homer. We know he's leading the AL in home runs as well as RBI. So I just think considering Bayo's on the mound, there's a good shot that Aaron Judge might be able to do it. But Eric, here we go. NFL Week 3. I'm hoping we got some good juju. We gave out some good picks, and things will get rolling today.
No, agreed. I'm excited about this slate. Anytime you have NFL football on the Sunday, it's a good thing.
It's a good day. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning into Bet. We will be back here tomorrow, and we will see you then to talk Monday Night Football. Have a great day, and hopefully you win some money.